Cheer of lighting, use the earth gently, nourish the life of the world in our care. Give the great wonder how to surrender, trust for the children tomorrow will end. We who in danger, who create hunger, agents of death for all creatures that live. We who would foster clouds of disaster, God of our planet, forestall and forgive. Let learning ringing, birth from the burning, water that blesses and air that is sweet. Health in God's garden, hope in God's children, regeneration that peace will complete. God of all living, God of all loving, God of the seedling, the snow and the sun, teach us, deflect us, Christ reconnect us, using us gently and making us one. One human family God has made, and more for each to care. One world to be the home of all, with all its wealth to share. One Christ to manifest on earth love's ultimate design. One church to know the mystery of broken bread and wine. One race, one word, yet torn apart, we spurn the way of love. Must sail ahead that Christ leads on, and calls his church to move. From love of power to power of love, to give the world to all. To trust the love that conquered death outside the city wall. And are we brave enough to join with that great company? The cost not less than all we have and all hope to be. The bitter cup of human sin to drink with him who died, and take his love outside the wall to all the crucified. Take him who claims us for his own, to share his pain and grief, to bear the scars that stamp us his from all our belief. As partners of the living Christ who risked the path he trod, with wondering love we find we share the timeless joy of God. Show me how to stand for justice, how to work for what is right, how to challenge false assumptions, how to walk within the light. May I learn to share more freely in a world so full of greed, showing your immense compassion by the life I choose to lead. Teach my heart to body I embrace a lifestyle modeled on your living word. In humility submitting to the truth which I have heard. Make me conscious of your presence every day in all I do. By your Spirit's gracious prompting, may I learn to walk with you. As your family, Lord, see us here. As your family, Lord, see us here. As your family, Lord, see us here. Oh Lord, see us here. Make us faithful, Lord, to your will. Make us faithful, Lord, to your will. Make us faithful, Lord, to your will. Oh Lord, to your will. Fill our spirits, Lord, with your love. Fill our spirits, Lord, with your love. Fill our spirits, Lord, with your love. Oh Lord, give your love. As your family, Lord, see us here. As your family, Lord, see us here. As your family, Lord, see us here. Oh Lord, see us here. Touch the earth lightly, use the earth gently, nourish the life of the world in our care. Give the great wonder, hearts to surrender, trust for the children tomorrow will end. We who in danger, who create hunger, agents of death for all creatures that live. We who would foster clouds of disaster, God of our planet, forestall and forgive. Let learning reigning, birth from the burning, water that blesses and air that is sweet. Health in God's garden, hope in God's children, regeneration that peace will complete. God has made, and more for each to care. One world to be the home of all, with all its wealth to share. One Christ to manifest on earth love's ultimate design. One church to know the mystery of broken bread and wine. One race, one word, yet torn apart, we spurn the way of love. The sail ahead that Christ leads on, and calls his church to move. From love of power to power of love, to give the world to move. To trust the love that conquered death outside the city wall. And are we brave enough to join with that great company? The cost not less than all we have and all hope to be. The bitter cup of human sin to drink with him who died, and take his love outside the wall to all the crucified. Take him who claims us for his own, to share his pain and grief, to bear the scars that stand us list from all our belief. As partners of the living Christ, who risk the path he trod, with wondering love we find we share the timeless joy of God. Show me how to stand for justice, how to work for what is right, how to challenge false assumptions, how to walk within the light. May I learn to share more freely in a world so full of greed, showing your immense compassion by the life I choose to lead. Teach my heart to treasure mercy, whether given or received, for my need has not diminished since the day I first believed. Let me seek no satisfaction, boasting of what I have done, but rejoice that I am pardoned and accepted in your Son. Gladly I embrace a lifestyle modeled on your living word, in humility submitting to the truth which I have heard. Make me conscious of your presence every day in all I do. By your Spirit's gracious prompting, may I learn to walk with you. As your family, Lord, see us here. As your family, Lord, see us here. As your family, Lord, see us here. Oh Lord, see us here. Make us faithful, Lord, to your will. Make us faithful, Lord, to your will. Make us faithful, Lord, to your will. Oh Lord, to your will. Fill our spirits, Lord, with your love. Fill our spirits, Lord, with your love. Fill our spirits, Lord, us here. As your family, Lord, see us here. Oh Lord, see us here.
There we go. Welcome to Toast Church. It's lovely that you've all come to join us this morning, and I hope you've enjoyed your breakfast. Welcome as well to those that are watching online. Sorry, I'm ringing a bit. We've been struggling to get the sound right in here this morning, but hopefully you can hear all right, and hopefully those online can hear all right as well. Sorry that you've not been able to have toast and tea and coffee with us. Maybe you have at home, so welcome. And this morning is going to be different to our normal 10:30 service because we're going to do things a bit more like how we do at Toast Church. So we start with toast and cereal at Toast Church, and then we talk about a story, talk about a theme or an issue, do some sort of activities, and then we normally sing at the end. Having said that, we are going to sing one song now, partly because David needs to go at 10:30, so we thought we'd give him one song to play for us. And also because actually this really fits more at the beginning because we're saying welcome everybody. And I know that most of you will know this already, but there's some actions to the chorus, very simple. It goes, welcome everybody, it's good to see you here. And then we do that 3 times, and then we go gathering in this place. But it starts with the verse there, here we are together, now we can begin. Now we've already begun because we've begun with tea and coffee and toast and cereal and chat and fellowship, but now we're beginning again with our singing. So let's feel free to stand or sit, however you prefer. We're going to stay sat at the tables because there's other things to do at the tables later, and let's sing together. Excellent, well done. Well done as well for doing that extra little bit at the end that what we weren't expecting from the PowerPoint, because we sometimes sing that bit and we sometimes don't, but that's really good. So, as you might be able to see from our board, I don't know whether the camera can point it to our board there, we've been thinking over the last few weeks at Toast Church about the theme of justice, or all sorts of themes around justice. It was something that actually some of our young people suggested, things that they wanted to think about, like fair trade and climate justice. And so we've been thinking about justice in various different ways. We thought about God's covenant of justice, of fairness with his people, with Abraham. We thought about food justice, and we looked, if you want to look later at the board there, it shows in the corner there what a refugee, a Syrian refugee, this isn't Syrian refugees from the earthquake, this is Syrian refugees from the war a few years ago, what they got in a refugee camp, and the sort of things that they got given in the refugee camp. And it would probably feed, this is for a week's rations, it would probably feed you for a week with all the rice that you could actually get, but not very interesting. Not very interesting diet. We started last week thinking about racial justice, and this Sunday is actually Racial Justice Sunday. So that's what we're focusing on as well today. Now I'm going to tell you a story that maybe at first doesn't seem to have much of a link with racial justice, but hopefully as we go through we'll see some links and we'll be able to bring some links out of this. So this is a story of something that happened with Jesus and his disciples. They were in a town one day and they noticed a man who was blind, and they could tell for one reason or another, they could tell that this man had been blind all his life. He was born blind. And, you know, the thing is at that time, that when people saw somebody who had a disability or an illness, they assumed that that was because of something that they'd done wrong. Oh, that you've got that illness or you've got that disability because you've done the wrong things, and maybe it's a punishment from God. And so, of course, we don't think that now, but at that time that's what they thought. And so Jesus' disciples were a bit confused about this man who'd been born blind, because how could it have been down to something that he'd done wrong if he'd always been like that? So maybe if it wasn't something that he'd done wrong, maybe it was something that his parents had done wrong, and that's how he'd been born blind. And so they said to Jesus, what is it that's made this man blind? Is it something his parents have done, or is it something that he's done? Do you know what Jesus said? What do you think Jesus said? Sorry, Lillian? Neither him nor his parents. That's right. He said it's not down to what anybody's done wrong. This is how the man is. He also said something about this was so that glory could be brought to God today, and that's got all sorts of difficult things that we might need to think about, but we're not going to think about that today. But he said it was down to nothing that the man had done wrong and nothing that his parents had done wrong. And although we think that we're more civilized today than they were then, although we think we can think more rationally, how often actually does society sometimes think that the way people are actually is down to what's happened, what they've done in their lives? Or sometimes we judge people based on how they are, which is nothing to do with anything that they've done. Anyway, going back to the story, I've just realised I meant to get some mud, but I haven't got some mud, so never mind. We'll have to imagine mud. Oh, well, go on then. You could get some mud. Let's get some mud. Anyway, this is how things happen sometimes at Toast Church. We suddenly think, oh, we're meant to do this. So, Jesus went up to the man. He went up to the man and he spat on the ground in front of him. I wonder what the man thought about that. Somebody coming up to him and spitting on the ground in front of him. He probably had that happen to him quite a lot, because this man was because he was blind, he was a beggar. In my hand. There we go. Yeah. Shall I spit on it? There we go. I wasn't intending to spit on it, but there we go. Who'd like some of this mud put on their eyes now? Shall I put some on your eyes, Amos? No? No? Gabriel, would you like some mud on your... No? I wouldn't really. But Jesus, that's what Jesus did. He spat on the ground and then he rubbed this mud on the man's eyes. And what do you think happened then? Sorry, I'll put it on the table. Yeah. Maybe people can go and feel the mud later to think about what it would feel like on their eyes. Jesus then said to the man, go and wash that mud off in the pool. Don't know exactly where the pool was, but go and wash that mud off in the pool. And so the man went and washed off the mud. And at that point, the man could see. I wonder what he saw, what the first thing was he saw. We know that the first thing he didn't see, something that he didn't see, was Jesus. Jesus had gone. Or at least he'd sent the man off to wash. So he didn't see Jesus straight away. But he saw some other people, and they were amazed. They were amazed that suddenly he could see. This man that they'd known as being blind all his life could suddenly see. Some people didn't believe that it was really him because they knew he was blind. They knew that people who'd been blind all their lives didn't suddenly find that they could see. Oh, sorry, we're struggling with the sound here. They knew that it couldn't be possible. So they said, well, it must be somebody else. And then he got brought to some of the Pharisees, some of the religious leaders. And they said, oh, how did this happen to you? Because it's a Sabbath and you shouldn't have been made well on the Sabbath. Who did that? And they were angry about it. Can you imagine being angry about somebody who'd been blind, suddenly finding that they could see? But they were angry about it. And they said, who did this? And he said, well, it was the man Jesus. But I don't know what he looks like. Now then, I think we should have a bit of a line-up now. Can we get some, I'm going to say men today. Can we get some men up here? Any men volunteer to be in our line-up? Okay? See whether the blind man could pick somebody. Oh, thank you, David. And David, thank you. Amos, do you want to come and be in our line-up, if that's all right? Okay. So, any other men to be in our line? Oh, thank you, Gabriel. Oh, and we've got another. Right, so this is our... this is our police lineup. Okay. So, yeah, we'll get the camera on our police lineup. There we go. That's our police lineup. So, the man was asked, okay, which one of these is the man that healed you? Because we need to tell him off for healing you on the Sunday, on the Sabbath. Which one do we think it is? Which one do we think looks most like Jesus? Any volunteers? Amos. Okay. So, anybody got any different views of who looks most like Jesus? Okay, we think Amos. Why do we think Amos looks most like Jesus? Hair colour and length. Okay. And he's young. Yeah, Jesus. We know Jesus was only in his 30s at this point, and okay, Amos isn't quite in his 30s, but he's probably the closest, isn't he? Yes. But I wonder, it's an interesting thing, because this man didn't know anything about what Jesus looked like. I wonder whether you've ever seen somebody on the TV or in a picture that you've heard their voice lots, but you've never actually seen them. Somebody perhaps that you hear on the radio, and then you see them and you think, oh, that's not how I imagined them looking. I wonder when he did finally meet Jesus, because he did finally meet Jesus, whether he was how he looked. How do we imagine Jesus looks? Can we put you can sit down now, thank you. Can we put the first picture up on the screen? Now, these pictures are all from a resource pack published back in 2004 called The Christ We Share. And they're pictures from around the world of Jesus. Hands up if you like the first picture of Jesus there, the one that's called the Lesser Brethren. Anybody like that one? Yeah, a few people like that one. It's It's how we're used to seeing pictures of Jesus perhaps from our childhood in children's Bibles and things. He's very white though, isn't he? Even his clothes are white, not very practical, but also his skin's white. He's the traditional sort of Western with a beard. We can't say whether he's got long hair or short hair underneath that headdress, but yeah, very white. Who likes the second picture? I like the second picture. That's actually from Latin America. But again, you could imagine that being a sort of Western white Jesus. Perhaps he looks a little bit less like us. What about the third picture? Again, that's from Latin America. A poster, Jesus Christou, and it's a wanted poster. But again, he's white. He's got long hair. He's got the long hair. He's got the beard. He's perhaps how we might imagine Jesus looking. Okay, can we move on to the other three? There we go. These are three other pictures of Jesus. Welcome. Come on in. Sorry if you thought it started at 10:30. We're doing things a bit differently today. So these are three pictures of Jesus. So the one on the left is actually a Maasai tribal picture of Jesus. And actually, that's depicting Jesus as the older brother, because in the Maasai tribes, they think of Jesus as being like the elder brother, because they have the idea in their tribes of an elder brother looking after his younger siblings. So they saw Jesus as the elder brother. And then in the middle, you've got Jesus depicted as a Korean. And actually, I had to crop the picture to fit it in, but behind it, sort of between the cross, sort of what the cross is, or in front of the cross and between him and the cross, is actually a map of North and South Korea, divided, but he's sort of holding it together. And then on the right-hand side, you've got a picture from India. And I think Jesus there looks quite like some of the sort of depictions of Hindu gods, or Hindu holy people. Three quite different pictures of Jesus. How does that make us feel, seeing those pictures of Jesus? Do we look at those and think, oh yes, that's Jesus? Anybody got any thoughts about any of those?
I like how it reminds us that Christianity is all around the world.
Yeah, it reminds us that so I haven't got we could get the roving mic out, but it might not work. So I'll just repeat it. So it reminds us that Christianity is all around the world. Yes. Anybody else got any thoughts about those pictures? Gabriel. You like the one with the boat? Yeah. What do you like about the one with the boat, Gabriel? Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Saving his siblings. Excellent, yeah. And actually that is Jesus calming the storm. And he was saving his friends, his disciples, his brothers. Yeah, excellent. Now, I don't know, you might be familiar with this picture, and I've got it on the screen as well. Hazel very helpfully brought this in. This is a picture, not of what Jesus necessarily looked like, but this was constructed a number of years ago by an anthropologist who took a skull that had been dug up from the region where Jesus lived, and he reconstructed, you know how they do these reconstructions, to make an impression of what somebody from that time, from that place might have looked like. Does that look like Jesus, maybe? Is that how we imagine Jesus to be? No, maybe not. Because we've got this image, haven't we, from our children's Bibles, from art, of how Jesus looked. But I've got a challenge for you today. There's paper around, and we'll spread the paper out to the different tables. And I want to invite you to draw a picture of Jesus, but try to not make it the traditional image of Jesus, how we always think of him, but try and imagine how Jesus might look. Not necessarily traditionally how he looked. You could go for an image of Jesus from somewhere else in the world, or from somewhere else in our society. He doesn't have to be white, he doesn't have to be black, he doesn't have to look Middle Eastern. Okay? You draw Jesus how you imagine he could be. He could be to you. Okay? And you can use your imagination. Let's see how many different images of Jesus we can come up with. And do you want to put the? Oh, yeah. Do you want to put the camera back on? Do you want to put the camera back on a moment? Yeah. So just for those of you at home, we're doing a bit of artwork now. It's probably going to take us about sort of 10 minutes. So if you want to do some drawings as well, and you could always send them to us at toastchurchgrange@gmail.com if you want to send them to us, and we'll post them up on our Facebook page later. Or you might want to just go away and do something else and come back in 10 minutes to see what we've been doing and to join in with our later songs.
Taking the opportunity to slip to
Right, yeah.
No, it's the relationship, isn't it?
Oh, I like the orange hair there. That's brilliant. A ginger Jesus. Excellent. We've got a ginger Jesus here.
I was just thinking that reminds me of who's the person in is it Brave in the Disney?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, yeah. Oh. Well, those were. I mean, Joe has the resource base.
Right.
Had to find a CD player to plug into the computer to get them off the CD player. But, yeah. So, I like that curly haired Jesus. Yeah. So, all right. Is it not? Is it struggling because of that?
I'm
do
just
you think?
wondering whether it's possibly that.
Yeah.
That just holds it
Hold it up.
fraction.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is definitely the source of the problem.
Right.
This cable.
Yeah.
Because when I disconnected that, all it went.
Yeah. Well, it's cobbled together very old cables and everything. Yeah. I thought we had a better cable that was just a jack to jack, and if I'd thought about it, we'd have maybe we've got one at home somewhere, but you know. No, it's all right. It's not worth it now, really. So, yeah. just coming round to have a look at some of these pictures. Oh, excellent. Oh, Hilda, that looks quite like the wanted poster, that one. Yeah. Good morning. Hi. Morning, Lily. Wow. Hold there. Okay. So, I've had a bit of a wander round to look at some of your pictures. Some lovely pictures, and I hope that some of you will be willing to leave them with us to stick up on our board as different images of Jesus. Lots of quite traditional-looking images of Jesus with the long hair and the beard, but that's fine. Anybody got any pictures they'd be willing to bring up, and so that we can show everybody, show on the camera, and show people at home? Everybody's turning their paper over now to. Oh, come on, bring it. Here we go. Thank you, Gabriel. Right, shall I hold that up now? Then, can we see that? It's a bit blurry.
That's catching the.
Oh, that's catching the projector, right? Yes. Amos will hold it. There we go. So, do you want to tell us about that, Gabriel?
That's God and that's Jesus.
Sorry, say it again.
That's God and that's Jesus.
So, which one's Jesus?
That one.
Okay. So the one that's in the middle, the top, is Jesus, and then is it God underneath? Excellent. Thank you, Gabriel. Right. We've got one from Matilda here. So, are you ready for this? This is the Ginger Jesus. Excellent. Do you want to tell us about this, Matilda?
I think he's floating like a ghost.
Floating like a ghost. Ah, excellent. Thank you. And what's that on his arm, balanced on his arm?
A bird.
A bird. Lovely, yeah. That's fantastic. Thank you. So a bird on his arm. Okay, any other pictures to share? Oh, Liz have one. Right, okay. It's not yours. Oh, right, okay. Is this, was this Hilda's? This is, so, that's a lovely picture. That reminds me a lot of the Wanted poster. It's quite similar to the Wanted poster, isn't it? But yeah, fabulous. And it looks like Jesus is praying there, or thinking deeply, doesn't it? So there we go. Excellent, thank you. So, just a few more thoughts. I wonder, how does the way that we see Jesus affect the way that we see others? How does the way that we see Jesus affect the way that we see others? If we imagine that Jesus is essentially like us, and it is good often to think of Jesus as being like us. He came, we remember at Christmas, he came to dwell among us and to be like us. But sometimes I think imagining Jesus as that white man with the beard, very Western looking, perhaps makes us think of Jesus as being one of us a bit too much. And I think one of the things that Ruth said, can we go back to that picture of the different Jesuses from different countries? I think it is helpful to remember that Jesus isn't just like us, but Jesus is like the Maasai on the left. Jesus is like the Korean man in the middle. Jesus is like the Indian on the right. Yes, Jesus was a first century Jewish Palestinian man, but actually that's just down to where he was born. Jesus is like all of these. And so as we look at society, we also need to recognise Jesus in all society, in all types of people. And going back to the story of the man born blind, of course we know now that the man that was born blind wasn't born blind because of anything that he'd done or because of anything that his parents did. Now last week Hazel had us running up and down the hall according to different things about us, and one of the things was, she said, stand over there if you can roll your tongue, and stand over there if you can't roll your tongue. Can anybody roll their tongues? I can't. So roll the edges of your tongue. Matilda's doing a great tongue rolling there. But that's genetic. There's nothing that we can do. If you can't roll your tongue, you can't really train yourself to roll your tongue. And there's nothing wrong with you if you can't roll your tongue. It's just genetic. And in the same way, the colour of our skin, our race, is something that's genetic. It's something that just is the way that we are. And so, just as there's no reason to judge somebody on whether they can roll their tongue or not, or what shape they are, or whether they've got disabilities, also we shouldn't be judging people based on their race. We shouldn't be making any sorts of judgment saying, oh, well, they must be like that because they're from that particular race. We need to see all people as being like us, because we are all, after all, one human race, aren't we? Now, even after everything that happens, when the Pharisees are trying to speak to the man and trying to get him to accuse Jesus of doing things wrong and saying Jesus must be a bad man because he healed people on the Sabbath, the blind man actually gets the better of the Pharisees, because he says, well, that's ridiculous. I don't know whether he's good or bad, but what I do know is he healed me, and that's good for me. And the Pharisees thought that the man was trying to teach them, and they said, you're trying to teach us, but you're a sinner, because they still saw him as a sinner. Even though he'd been healed, even though Jesus said that his blindness was nothing to do with anything he'd done, actually, they said, well, you're a bad man, because you were blind, so you must have been bad. And that's really sad. And even today in our society, we make judgments. People make judgments all the time based on the colour of people's skin, or based on people's disabilities, based on their genetics. And one last thing, the resources that were brought out for Racial Justice Sunday, which I decided not to use much of, were focused on a young man who died 30 years ago. Can we put that last picture up, please? Stephen Lawrence. Now, one thing that struck me is that Stephen Lawrence was 18 when he died, and he died 3 days before my 18th birthday. Stephen Lawrence would have been my age if he was still alive today. And he was killed because of the colour of his skin. And also it's understood now that the perpetrators of that crime, that murder, weren't actually brought to justice, or weren't brought to justice soon enough because of the colour of his skin, because people weren't so bothered about the fact that a black man had been killed. Let's think about how we see Jesus. Think about how Jesus sees each person in his creation. And let's just have a moment of quiet now as we reflect on that and bring our prayers in silence today to God. Dear God, we're sorry that even today in our society, people are treated badly because of the colour of their skin, or because of the place that they come from, or because of things that they've inherited from their parents, genetics. Help us to see you afresh this morning, and help us to treat other people in the right way, as you would have treated them, as you reached out and treated the blind man. Amen. Now we're going to finish with a couple of songs, and those songs are, one of them is one that we've sung a lot recently because it really fits in with our theme of justice, and Ruth is going to teach us some actions for it. I'll just to pass you the microphone.
Thank you. Well, the lyrics are brilliant.
Sorry about the sound this morning.
As Paul said, this is a song that we've done about 3 or 4 times. The young folks will know it. And I think the lyrics are so good because it just tackles some of those, like, we just sometimes don't know why stuff happens, and I suppose we just have to go forward in faith, and perhaps some things will become clearer and perhaps some things won't. But it's a very lovely, calm song, and when it gets to the chorus, so God, give me strength to change what I can. Help me believe that I'm part of your plan. God, give me peace when life seems unfair. Help me to know that your spirit is there. So it's lots of very simple pointing to God and strength, change and plan. Okay, but you're not getting judged on this, so just don't worry if you don't get it right. Just like our wonderful caller last night at the Cayley was very good at reassuring us, don't worry if you make a mistake, so don't worry.
Do you want to just go through the actions?
Yes, sorry. So God, give me strength to change what I can. Help me believe that I'm part of your plan. God, give me peace when life seems unfair. Help me to know that your spirit is here. Okay.
Thank you, David. Or most people will know, not everybody, but most people will know, build up one another, thinking about how actually everything we say, everything we do actually affects other people. And that again has links with this idea of racial justice. So I think this is one to stand up for. Is anybody going to come out and help with the actions for this as well? Anybody want to come and help with the actions? Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Matilda. Okay, so... Excellent, thank you. Well, thank you for joining us at Toast Church this morning. And you know, you're always welcome to join us at 9:30 for toast and cereal, or when you arrive at church at sort of 9:45, sorry, no, not 9:45, 10:15 maybe, or 10:15 if you're early. Feel free to come through to the hall and see what we're doing. Join in with our singing. Everybody is always welcome, whoever you are. One other thing to mention is, as was in the weekly update, we are doing a special collection this morning. So there is the normal offering plate on the table by the door there, but there's also a basket collecting for the earthquake appeal, the Disaster Emergency Committee earthquake appeal. That money will be sent to Christian Aid, which is a partner charity for the DEC. Also, as I understand it, the government have promised to match fund the first, is it 5 million? Oh, it's way past the 5 million. Okay, so it won't be match funded unless the government change their mind and do more. But if you want to give to that appeal, there's a basket by the table there, and that will all be sent to Christian Aid. And also the card reader this morning is set up for card donations, which will also be sent to Christian Aid this morning for that. So you can also make a donation by card if you want to. Okay, so thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. There is more tea and coffee being served now if you want another cup of tea or coffee, and do feel free to stay and chat for a bit longer. Thank you.